Yeah, California's one big homeowners association. That's exactly right. It's filled with people who have nothing to do but to tell other people what to do, and it's a miserable, miserable experience. Um, let's see what we got here. Okay. Okay, from the Facebook page. I'm just going to take them in order that they are. I'm not going to try and sort or anything. Susan Speakman. Hi, Bill. Hi, Susan Speakman. Regarding this whole impeachment circus, I'm glad we got a question about this. It'd be kind of nuts to not talk about it. TSL 241, I did finally cut the stuff out of. I rendered it just before I started the show. It's going up tonight along with this one. Um, Regarding this whole impeachment circus, I'm on the fence. On one hand, the House was supposed to come up with impeachable crimes, and they got bupkis, so they should just deal with the flat dismissal. On the other hand, it sure would be fun to get Schiff and a few others on the stand and under oath. What say you? I think the only... I did a segment called There Is No Best Case Scenario, where Scott kept asking me, well, okay, well, what's the best case scenario now? And I kept thinking about it, and I thought, there is no longer a best case scenario. It's just all suckage all the way down. The only, the enemy gets a vote too, right? And they're the enemy now. That poster that somebody held up in the gun rally thing in Virginia a week ago said, "I'd rather be an American than a Democrat." I'm sad to say that that's the case. So in any kind of battle, the enemy gets a vote, and we don't get to control what they do. We only get to control what we do. I think this is the most appalling thing I have ever seen. It has really fundamentally affected my mood, to be honest with you. I just watch it, and I feel like a guy who's just watching a boat that he built or something sink, or I'm watching a garden that I spent a lot of time on just slowly go to weeds or whatever. I'm watching my house burn down. That's what it feels like. And it's not just the damage, it's the loss. And even if it could be completely rebuilt, it's still loss, the loss of it. And to see these tiny, 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 tiny people, just these little, tiny, power-grubbing, narcissistic, venal vampires, just watching them do this is enough to make you just ill. It makes me ill watching this. And I know most of you are onto this, and I'm not trying to put myself in any particularly special privileged position, but since I'm in a special privileged position, I was a theater major. I've grown up with stagecraft. I've grown up with acting. I write movies. I write scenes. I construct visual reality. And when you do that for a living, you just get to see a little bit layer deeper than perhaps the average person does. I know everybody knows that when they marched those articles of impeachment over to the Senate with the House, and that they picked their special band of very serious-looking, deeply, deeply troubled people who are just terribly, terribly shocked at the tragedy of it. But I looked at the picture of them, and this is a strange connection. A lot of times in a movie, like a bad movie, your brain doesn't really, you don't notice it, but your brain does. A lot of times, one of the things, my God, what's going on? These lights are getting older, I guess. One of the things that really kind of stands out and hits you kind of subconsciously is that the extras are bad. I mean, you can see bad acting, bad leading actors, but one of the easy things to tell about something is when the extras are bad. And a great example of this is when they're supposed to be like either really angry or really happy or excited. You've got a mob scene, it's Game of Thrones or something, and you got the peasant going, "Ugh!" When extras are bad, it's because you can see them acting the cliche of who they're supposed to be. And I watched that, I looked at that picture, and I just said, I can see Nancy Pelosi and the rest of these criminals just casting this thing. And that's what it came down to, right? That's what it came down to. The people that they selected to deliver the articles to the Senate were cast. They had a limited cast, a couple hundred people in the House of Representatives, but they were cast. And they weren't selected for merit, and they weren't selected randomly, which at least would be something. None of that. They were cast. And when you look at that picture, it's like watching a bad ad agency pick the perfect diversity. It looked like a stock photo of a business meeting. That's exactly what it looked like. It looked like a stock photo of a business meeting. All of the diversity boxes are all checked, and they're checked in perfect balance and all of this stuff. And it's like, okay, I don't buy it. I may have bought it at some time, but I don't buy it. And I don't think the American people buy it. But I can see kind of the wires, I can see the wires of it. I can see how they're looking and how they're talking. I can see how they're trying to walk more slowly, a little more slowly than they usually do. They're bad actors, and I can see them acting. And then there are moments like, you see Schiff and these other people, and you can see them they're just bad actors. They're bad people because of their politics, but they're terrible actors. And you can watch them put on this kind of, garment. It's like, here, you're going to be a soldier from Rohan, so here's your green and gold armor, and put this on, and now you can be one of the Rohirrim. And you can watch them put this costume on and watch them assume the role that they feel like they have to take. This is a serious statehood matter. And we're deeply offended that you could claim that this is a partisan thing. This is the future of the republic. And so it's just like, just don't waste your time watching those people. I didn't even watch the video, but just watching the still of these people from the House marching the articles over to the Senate. I said the only thing that I can think of that hits me the same way right now is watching Michael Jackson in an interview tell you that he's never had any plastic surgery and that all three of those children are biologically his. That's the same feeling. I'm outraged on like I'm like meta outraged. I'm outraged squared. I'm outraged at what they're doing, needless to say, but I find myself, I'm more angry that they think that I would buy this cover. That makes me angrier than what they're doing on some bizarre, strange, and silly level. I know why they're doing what they're doing, and I know that a power play is a power play, and a coup is a coup. I know all of that. But when they run this thing and they expect people to believe it, it's insulting to my intelligence. And to my emotional intelligence too. I was so happy when I heard, Blasey Ford, when she first testified, and that I was hearing immediately afterwards that, because oh my God, the women are just they're gonna riot when they hear what she's got to say. And it turned out that the women immediately knew she was lying, because the way she chewed on her hair and her little baby voice, all these things that I have to be made aware of. But most women just could tell, of course she's lying. O.J. Simpson's lying. Michael Jackson's lying. You're lying to my face. It's like, that's the part that bothers me. It's like, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. I know what you're doing. And you know what you're doing, and I know that you know, and you know that I know that you know, and all of it. Stop. So yeah, and Johnny Frost mentioned Star Wars. I'm not going to go off on a Star Wars tangent, but that was another quality of both The Last Jedi, but especially of The Rise of Skywalker, is that everybody in that movie, and there's some good actors in that movie, are not playing characters. They're playing archetypes. It's kabuki. They know they know what the motions and the inflection, and it's all predetermined. They've done this 1,000 times. They know what they're supposed to be. It's not a character. It's not a creation. It's like, this is your archetype. You have to be this archetype. You have to be a diversity woman, and you have to be a strong, powerful woman, and you have to be battered housewife, and you have to be evil capitalist, and you have to be magic Negro. All of that stuff. By the way, Key and Peele, I disagree with both of them on their politics, but that's some of the best sketch comedy I've ever seen. If you ever have not seen them, Jordan Peele especially is just brilliant actor. And they did one called the Battle of the Magic Negroes, and there's like a business executive, and he's at his desk, and he just gets off the phone, and he's really depressed. He's going to break up with his wife, and in comes a guy with a kind of well, sometimes things have to be put, and it's just that, and then another black guy comes in. And now you got two magic Negroes, and then they start using like magic on each other and force beams and giant power things. It's bloody marvelous, is what it is. It's great. Yeah, pearl clutching. That's it. Talix001 said it in the comment section. It's pearl clutching. I'm just mortified that I could even be in this kind of company. And tell me, you know what? I'm going to do it. Hang on one second. Won't take long. I'm going to do it. Give me 1 second. Come on. It'll be worth it. Give me a second. 1950. Yeah. Yep. Here's it. I found what I wanted. Oh, right. I know I got a little bit of it wrong. Okay. I'm going to put a picture up. Okay. I'm going to put up a photograph from a movie. And your job will be to tell me who this movie star reminds you of in the real political world. Got it? I'm going to show you a picture of an actor, and you're going to tell me what politician may be associated with this actor. Ready? Here we go. Here it comes. Which modern-day, real-world political figure are you reminded of when you see this? I'm ready for my close-up now, Mr. DeMille. I'm not old, I'm young, I'm forever young, I'm always forever young. Who does that remind you of? You have 30 seconds on the clock. Tick, 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 tick. See, this is kind of it. Right? I mean, it's really kind of the whole point right here. This is what we're dealing with in the world right now. This is what we have for political leadership in this country. This is the spaceship. Aesops for the win. No, of course it's Nancy Pelosi. It's this. It's Nancy. It's this. Which is another example of it, by the way. This kind of, I always love this expression. When people obviously plastic surgery's gotten better over the years, but they used to call this kind of look that Nancy Pelosi has, they call it a rocket sled facelift, because it's one of these. And that too is a lie. It's like I may be 73, but I look 18. And boy, you want to talk about sightseeing in California, man. You can go to Beverly Hills, which I don't do too often, but I do sometimes, and you will see, especially if you go in the daytime, you will see tens, maybe scores of very rich women, and they're all wearing the same mask. Every single one of them. It looks, honest to God, it looks like when they went in for their plastic surgery, there was a mold that was made and heated white hot and then pressed into their face. Every single one of them looks the same. They have these tightened up eyes like this. They got these huge cheekbones, these huge lips, and every time I see that, I go, "Wow, are you her grandmother or her granddaughter? You look 16." It's like I think everybody talks about Helen Mirren as a great example of what's not that, and she really is. She's probably had some minor work done, which is fine with me. But Helen Mirren is beautiful, and she was beautiful her whole life, and she doesn't have to act like she's 16 or 20 in order to go out of the house. And so this is another sign of how diseased Nancy Pelosi is. By the way, Nancy Pelosi's facelift, Joe Biden's hair plugs, which have been significantly improved over the years, and Schmucky's, Schumer's hairline. If you met these people and you didn't know who they were, you'd think they were all like, almost like, what they remind me of? I'll tell you what they remind me of the people. The real politicians remind me of the people, and I don't know how he managed to do this 4 times. Yes, 4 times. They remind me of the people in Christopher Guest movies. Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show, A Mighty Wind, and For Your Consideration. Because Christopher Guest in those 4 movies hired the same cast all the time, managed to perfectly catch the vanity of it. The vanity. And all of those movies have the same target. He's going after the vanity of people. And that's what all of them look like. Carrie was, as Martin Archer points out, terrible, terrible, terrible plastic surgery. And Biden had a lot of work done since the 2016 election. He comes out, his skin like this. It's like, geez, Joe, are you 79 or are you 17? I can't tell. You look so good. It's unbelievable how young you look. Stop lying to me, man. Stop. Just stop. Anyway, I was poking around in somewhat less reputable internet quarters, and I heard Trey Gowdy's hair is the worst plastic surgery, says Johnny the Frost. But see, I disagree. Trey Gowdy's hair is awful. It's awful. But Trey Gowdy's hair is a haircut. Same for Donald Trump. It's a haircut. It's not, Donald Trump could afford the kind of fake hair that John Travolta has, for example. But it's a haircut. That's different. And I ought to know, because when it comes to bad haircuts, I think I've got the market cornered. Used to anyway, until I got married. So, it's a different thing. It's a different thing. Donald Trump has not done anything. Well, you could argue the suntan. But the suntan's a little different, the orange tan. George Bush would never get plastic surgery, and neither did Ronald Reagan, and neither did Donald Trump. But the people who we're up against do, and that tells me something, What does it say about you, Joe and Schmucky and Nancy? What does it say that you are so uncomfortable with the idea that you're getting old that you have to go to all this trouble and try to convince us that you're not? What is it about you that's so insecure? I think these things are all tied together. In fact, it's a really interesting topic for another time because clearly they're related, and And it does seem to be, not 100%, but it certainly does seem to be pretty much, one-sided. Trying to think if there are any more examples that leap to mind. Oh, the whole Hollywood crowd, obviously. Renee Zellweger, who I used to just adore, I thought she was just great. I thought she was so cute. And then she just decided that she didn't want to be Renee Zellweger anymore. She wanted to be 16. And she had plastic surgery done, and now she's not recognizable. And I'll come back to Star Wars one last time because there's no Stratosphere Lounge the last 2 years without Star Wars being mentioned. But when you watched The Force Awakens, you had Bill Clinton, right? Exactly. Hillary Clinton. Bill Clinton's had a lot of work done. But you go back to The Force Awakens, and you have the return of Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and Princess Leia. Mark Hamill looks like Luke Skywalker 50 years later. Mark Hamill looks like he's had a rough life. Meg Ryan was the one that broke my heart, Aesops said. Yeah, the Meg Ryan thing, I simply couldn't believe it. I thought she was so adorable, and she had such a great smile, and now she's got it. Now, they're all trying to be Angelina Jolie. It's just plain nuts. Anyway, so you watch The Force Awakens, and what do you see? You see Luke Skywalker, who looks like he's 50 years older than he was when we met him. And you see Han Solo, he looks like he's 50 years older than he was when you met him. And then you see this person whose build is Carrie Fisher, but I cannot connect her to the person in the movies. She had relatively late in life, she had so much bad work done that when I see her in these movies, these recent movies, I cannot connect her. I can connect Han Solo, I can Harrison Ford, I can connect Mark Hamill, but I cannot connect Carrie Fisher to the person she plays. She doesn't look anything like that person at all. Nothing like them. And when you tell me this is Princess Leia, it's like you cast somebody who maybe looks a little bit like Princess Leia. I don't do it. I can't do it. I have the same problem. I remember I had the same problem with Scotty when the Star Trek movie started to come out. I remember thinking it wasn't so bad in Star Trek the Motion Picture. By the time you got to Wrath of Khan, it's like, okay, that's Captain Kirk older, and that's Sulu older, and that's Chekhov older, and that's Uhura older, and who's this fat guy with the mustache again? I couldn't connect him I couldn't connect James Doohan to Mr. Scott. I could do it with all the rest of them, but I couldn't do it. I think there comes a time when this iconic image you have of people like iconic mythical figures like Scotty and Captain Kirk and Luke Skywalker and all the rest. They become iconic, and then they live long, and you get to watch them get older. And for some actors, mostly because of bad plastic surgery, some actors, you cannot connect them to who they were. Mobile Moto says Betty White is 98. And she looks great. And she looks like Betty White. And I can see Betty White at 100 years old, and I have no problem whatsoever connecting her to Sue Ann Nivens. None. And the same goes for Dick Van Dyke, for example. I mean, Dick Van Dyke's probably had some work, but Dick Van Dyke looks like Dick Van Dyke. Talix, I think, has the best comment, certainly of this show and maybe of the last 2 years. We're talking about these Star Wars fans getting older, and he said, Chewie aged well, at least. He has. Of course, he's got a much longer life than we do. That's why he's holding up so well. All right. I'm going to have to get on out of here. It's 7:45. You've had your pound of commentary now. Leave me alone. Am I not human like you? If I cut, do I not bleed? Whatever. Anyway, we'll be back next week, and I'm quite sure I've had more sleep. But I wasn't out of here till 3 last night, and after all of this talking about it for 6 months now, starting next Friday, you'll get to weigh in on whether all of this all of this work and effort and stuff was worth it. But we'll see. Oh, Hascat says, saw Sophia Loren maybe 5 years ago. I saw Raquel Welch 3 years ago. She looked fantastic. But Suzanne Summers is unrecognizable. Anyway. All right, so that's it. Now that I've had my TMZ episode, I'm ready to put the toolbox away and get back to work and do some more shows tomorrow. So anyway, thanks for joining us. It's always good to be here and to see you people. And I think we really definitely need to do a theme show again. Those are an awful lot more fun somehow. But again, that'll do it. And then, again, this show is made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com who have parted with money, and we deeply appreciate it. The electricity is on and the internet is on because of them. By the way, people have been commenting about the internet, my internet being bad tonight, and it is. My direct cable into the computer lost its whatever that damn thing's called. I forgot who it was, and so I'm on Wi-Fi now. But I've got to get that fixed. So it's just have to call the cable company up and get those numbers again. Okay, so that's it. Thanks again for joining us. It's been great, great fun seeing you here, and we will see you right here next week on the Stratosphere Lounge. Take care.